Now, we got one of our favorite segments.
Oh gosh.
Chakotay's Odyssey, featuring the adventures of Janeway.
Do tell, what happened in this episode?
So, an update on the crew. This is episode
Still
7.
watching it.
It's hilarious. So, episode 7 is called Eye of the Needle. Now, I've noticed one thing. So, Chakotay seems to be beer gut Chakotay this episode, because he looks like he's gained weight.
I wasn't well that week.
Maybe, but it looks like he's gained a bunch of weight.
I remember him being heavy.
I mean, you can't really see it because they're in those black jumpsuits, right? But
Maybe
I think at one point I see him, I'm like,
that
guy looks like he's gaining weight in the gut region, so it doesn't look that good.
I don't recall him ever
So
being
this
like
episode, on their way to the Alpha Quadrant, they mentioned Janeway, okay? What's her name there?
Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah, Kate Mulgrew there. So, constantly distracted Janeway, who has to explore everything. She's ordered the crew to check out different anomalies on their way because they want to find because they want to find a shortcut to get back home. So they find a wormhole.
Oh well, okay? You know not to go near a wormhole. Should know that by now.
Okay, so
they don't just like program the wormhole to get you back home.
So valedictorian Harry Kim discovers this wormhole, and they're like, we're going to name it after him. So they go make another detour and go check it out, and they discover it's only 30 centimeters in width. Oh darn, there's a problem.
30 centimeters?
So I'm sitting there, well, why don't they just do some science crap that they always do? Make it bigger and fly the ship through.
Put a probe through it.
Yeah, so they did send a probe through it, but it got stuck. Because this wormhole's deteriorating. Why? Science reasons. So the wormhole's deteriorating, and then what happens is...
Send a Roomba through it.
Someone comes up with an idea. I think it might be Angry Pants B'Elanna there.
Okay.
She comes up with an idea. It's like, we can send a subspace communication signal through it with, by adjusting it with science. So you can just picture them there with their old radio adjusting the frequency. It's like, oh, we got to get this done. And they send the signal.
That hard.
And what they discover is the wormhole goes to the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, it does.
And they get an answer on the other side.
Well,
and there's this dick on the other side, and he's giving them a hard time. And they're like, we're in the Alpha Quadrant. We need your help. And this guy's like, who is this? No, my refrigerator's not running. Click. It's just, he thinks it's a crank. Anyway, and we find out why this guy's being a dick to him. It's because he's a Romulan. So,
oh well, that was bad.
Oh my goodness!
But I mean, they should have known. They would have been able to receive signals through this thing. By the way, science.
So this Romulan. So they're like, okay, well, we'll just figure. So then B'Elanna comes up with the idea later on. It's like, so this guy's being a dick to them. And then he's like, okay, he's a science officer. Okay, I'll talk to my government, the Romulans, who hate the Federation. Okay, maybe we'll help you out, okay? So then they get this idea, okay, so we can send communications, right? Everyone on the crew can prepare a message and we'll send it to them, and then he'll send it to the Federation. Maybe. Romulans probably wouldn't do that. They'd probably just take it for classified information.
They could shoot Harry's clarinet through that hole.
We haven't seen Harry's clarinet yet.
Maybe that's where it got.
Although
it got there.
Last episode,
they said he left it home.
Last episode, we saw what's his name there, Tom Paris, ace fighter pilot Tom Paris / ex-prisoner.
He's good at everything.
Last episode, because there was all these little short stories that had nothing to do with the main story, the Nebula.
Right.
Okay? He showed Harry Kim his French bar that he goes to, where the women are always hanging off of him, and there's card sharks, and they're playing pool and that.
It's like Riker and Minuet.
So now this is the hangout spot, and they even get Janeway in on it. But so we saw that last episode.
Don't bring your boss to your hangout spot. That's like rule number 1.
Okay, so. They're going to send messages through this tiny wormhole because they can't expand it. Why not? Who knows? Seems dumb. Anyway, what they decide to do... No, then B'Elanna figures out, no, we can send a transporter signal through it. We can just beam to the Alpha Quadrant.
Yes.
So what they do is...
They just figure that out.
This Romulan dick won't allow them to beam to his ship. So they beam him to the Delta Quadrant, right? And then they discover, oh no, there's a time variance. And that's bad.
Oh.
You know why? Because this guy's from 20 years in the past. So they got a wormhole that goes 20 years into the past
really
into Romulan space. So could they just beam there 20 years ago? They're like, no, we can't do that. Prime directive. So the episode ends on they send communications. Okay?
Yeah.
They give him a bunch of communications and beam him back.
And tell him to send them in 20 years.
Yeah. And then they find out, no, he died. So he didn't get to send those messages. So everyone's
He's probably wider than 30 cents.
The theme of this episode is the crew's really depressed because they're away from their family and friends.
How does he die?
He just dies 5 years before the 20 years is up.
Well, he could have got someone else to do it.
Maybe,
Jeez.
but doubt it. They don't know, and now they just have to continue on to the Alpha Quadrant. But one interesting thing did happen at the end of the episode. Going back to Mrs. Five Jobs, Kess, because she has so many jobs on this show.
And she's not qualified for any of them.
Well, apparently she's doing really well learning human anatomy and physiology.
Oh, okay.
She's
Now
studying
she's
all
onto
this
that.
stuff with the doctor. So we see her in this role again. So maybe she got to keep this job. She seems to have been fired from all her other jobs because they never mention it again.
But technically, she's like an infant.
So
because her people only live 7 to 9 years or
I
something.
thought it was 2 to 3 years.
No, I think it's 7 to 9 years or something.
I don't remember.
Anyway,
Who cares? She's a Star Trek
like the
elf.
baby Yoda and opposite.
So she's learning a lot about this and hanging out with the doctor, and she's feeling a lot of empathy for him because the crew, really just one guy, is treating him like a dick because he's a hologram.
Well, he is a dick.
He is a dick, right? Anyway, at the end of the episode, he decides he wants to be more of a person, so the doctor there, okay, Mr. Sassy Pants Doctor, decides that he's going to be nicer to people. And also Kess is going to stand up for him so that the crew stops bullying him. And he decides at the end of the episode, he wants a name.
Oh.
And that's the end of the episode. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Chakotay's Odyssey, featuring the adventures of Janeway.